I am the famous American. And one of the most reoccurring comments I receive from all these videos is, why is it that people in the United States of America are so obsessed with race? Why is that? And so I feel like every once in a while I need to make a new video explaining why that is. We've ultimately been brainwashed to be this way, ironically, so that we won't be racist. Now, here's what it comes down to. Now, granted, my job, I work in HR, so I'm very familiar with this. Is a daily conversation I'm having, I'm mindful of. The EEOC, Equal Employment Opportunity Commission. There are certain things that employers have to make sure that they do not discriminate against as they're hiring or firing people. So there's a whole list of things. Like one, for example, is you cannot discriminate against an adult who's age 40 or older, which is funny because I just turned 39, so I've got one more year before people can stop discriminating against my age, as if that was happening. But it's a joke. But in less than a year, no one can discriminate against me for my age. But right now they can say you're too old or too young. I don't know. I don't know what 39 is. But specifically, the EEOC, the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, some other things they say that you cannot discriminate against are race, color, and national origin. Of course, religion too, but specifically there's some, they kind of all fit together to us here in the United States. Race, color, national origin, it's all kind of the same thing. Basically, you're not white, you're not WASP, you're not white Anglo-Saxon Protestant. And that, by being mindful of that, the whole concept is to not discriminate against those people. So how do we keep from discriminating against people? We have people self-identify their race and ethnicity. And I've mentioned many times before, the first time I remember myself doing this, it's not just employment too, it's just anything government related also. So for example, I was in first grade, there's the first standardized test I had to take. And I remember I had to put my race and ethnicity. It was confusing because white was an option, but then white says, but not Hispanic, not including Mexican descent. So how do I explain? I mean, I had to have the teacher help me to figure out what I even was, as the teacher was trying to help all the other kids figure out what they were supposed to do on this form. So, from age 6 to age 39, I'm filling out forms and I'm constantly filling out race and ethnicity. Why? So that I am not discriminated against, nor so would anyone else be. But obviously there's some irony involved in which we're constantly aware of our race, we're constantly filling out forms to identify so that we're not discriminated against, and therefore it brings a lot of attention to our race and ethnicity in our daily conversations that we have. Consider, I'm 39, I was born in 1981, way past civil rights movement and all that, Not too long before, things were pretty crazy here still. But by the time the early 80s happened, I even heard a black comedian say that no black man would want to go in a time machine and go back in time before the year 1980. And I think that pretty much, I can totally understand that. So I was born right when things became a bit less oppressive for black Americans specifically. So as we travel through time into the future, as we are now in 2020, we imagine that we have all these things in place to keep minorities from being discriminated against. But by doing so, the way we have to maintain that model is to constantly be aware of our race and our ethnicity and talk about it and fill out forms on it. And that's how we end up getting brainwashed to this degree. And ultimately, that's how I can have a channel about it. And it's pretty popular, over 3,000 subscribers now. People are into these conversations. It's almost like for the rest of the world, they're hearing me say taboo things. Not in the USA. Here in the USA, this is the whole discussion. We are very mindful to not be racist because of our racist history. And in trying to not be racist, we come across as racist to the outsiders. You watch my video, man, this guy's obsessed with race. Well, for Europe, I can understand why you'd feel that way. For other countries, I can understand how you'd feel that way. For Puerto Rico, I can understand how you feel that way. I've made videos before. Puerto Rico, you're pretty much a tri-racial nation. There's African, there's Native American, there's European. Predominantly, there's a mix going on there. But for us, it's a weird history that we've got here. And in the midst of overcoming it, this is what we've come to. An ironic situation where we're constantly trying to not be racist So by default, we're overly aware of our race and ethnicity. Your comments, your thoughts, your beliefs, your perspective on life.